This is what mass hysteria looks like. It is no different to the panic in 1690 Salem. It is no different to the mass hypochondria of 2018's Emirates Flight 203. As we prepare for the second winter under COVID restrictions, it's time to look at what's going on. COVID might be a really serious disease, and it might be somehow perpetually balanced on the edge of killing large numbers of people. Though the maths on that is pretty unlikely. It might also be a hysteria, where failure to independently rationalize evidence of risk, failure to obtain perspective, as the public labors under a deluge of propaganda, builds a hysteria driven by a failure to scrutinize what we are told. But, when a 14th century monk has better science than your government, you know things are pretty bad. Evidence separates myths and stories from facts, but it is not evidence that creates the separation. Facts alone are just more stories. You need reason to identify truth, and you need to choose to apply it. Hot air rises is a fact, but it only becomes differentiated from other explanations once the cynical application of scrutiny and reason is applied. Hot air might also rise because the hand of God lifts it. It explains the process just fine. As does the idea that hot air does not rise at all, but the rest of the universe simply decides to fall a bit when it's around. But they are both unnecessarily complicated. Which is why William of Ockham was a first-class thinker and a third-rate monk. Occam's razor was the realization that eventually destroyed religious dominance in the Western Hemisphere. So what was this super-powerful method that propelled the world forwards? It was scrutiny. The desire to examine and understand the world. And the righteous indignation of not wishing to be deceived. The secret ingredient was not belief. It is not education. It is not the opinion of the masses. It is not the authority of state. The secret ingredient is being prepared to evaluate and criticize based on evidence. Which is why a democratic government has a duty to its population to present the evidence without manipulation. It is required that governments produce the raw data for scrutiny when asked, for how else can the population determine if they are being lied to? If when asked the government refuses to produce the raw data, then they controlling you by presenting a specific view of the data that matches their interest. In short, they are manipulating your perception to prevent scrutiny of their actions. The government is not your master, the government is your servant, they serve your interest. If they are lying to you, you have the right to find out. Ask yourself whether the raw data is available for scrutiny in the COVID-19 epidemic. Are the anonymized raw test results available? What is the number of test kits that failed quality control or double-blind testing? Or even the actual patient positivity versus the number of test kits used? And if you did have access to this data, what would that tell you about the true effectiveness of lockdowns and other controls, the true level of danger, and the quality of the government's handling of it? Look carefully at what you are being told, examine the numbers, compare them to other causes of death and ask yourself whether this matches with rational scrutiny. If you do not apply scrutiny, people with inadequate moral scruples will exploit your apathy for their own empowerment, and it will not end well. Last time scrutiny was applied this lightly, the general public believed in witches. Use your rational mind to improve yourself, to become the best human being you can be. Because ultimately that's all we can ever hope for. Be kind to each other. FTS